Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. From Mailroom to Corner Office, A Banker's Journey by Dr. R. Srinivasan. This is the cover page of the book. Today, that is 22nd July 2025, I'll be sharing the episode 14. The following four slides consist the YouTube URLs of the previous episodes. Back to Banking, New Bank of India, New Delhi. The chapter Back to Banking, Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad is completed. Now we'll be moving on to the next chapter that is New Bank of India, New Delhi. I had never been to New Delhi until that point. For us, it was a challenge to move to a new place where the language spoken was totally alien to us. I did not know where to find the bank's head office, where to find the residence, where to get my first and second sons admitted to school, and how to start a new life in a place like New Delhi. Luckily for me, a former colleague in the National Bank of India Limited, Sri Gopalaswamy, had earlier left that institution and joined Industrial Finance Corporation (IFC) and was living in Karol Bagh, New Delhi, in a small flat with his wife and two kids. When I sought his advice as to what I should do, he said that I should move lock, stock, and barrel in one go and not think of going back and bringing the family, etc. He said that he would help me find a residence quickly, and during the interim period, I could stay with him along with my family. Coming to think of this, it reminds me how large hearted people were in those days. A man with no great means, already living in a single bedroom flat, asking me to land on him with my entire belongings and the family. We never imagined his constraints and just took his advice seriously and followed it. So, my wife, three sons, and I traveled by train and reached New Delhi railway station on July 30th, 1971. My friend came to the station and took us to his house. Unforgettable help from him included finding a reasonably good flat in New Rajendra Nagar, the admission of my first son in a school run by the Delhi Tamil Education Association, my second son in Manav Satlai, and guiding me to my new office and helping me to settle down quickly within 4 days. The flat that Gopalaswamy helped us to find was in New Rajendra Nagar, H453, a ground floor building for about rupees 500 per month. This place was about 600 km from the office, which was in Connaught Place, A block. Sridhar's school was midway between our home and my office. Shrikant found admission in a private school just behind our house. As I had never been without job even for a single day since the time I left school in 1947, I was constantly in fear about what would happen if the NBI chose to cancel the offer. As I did not join the job immediately on arrival in New Delhi, I telephoned the chairman and sought his permission to join on August 4 as it was an auspicious date. He readily agreed, and so on that day I took up the new job. I found a totally new atmosphere on my first day in the bank. All new faces and no one to speak to me in my mother tongue. Luckily, I had passed some examination conducted by the Dakshin Bharat Hindi Prachar Sabha while I was in Madras and was able to find my way. In the office, everyone spoke only Punjabi. I used to be silent spectator in the meetings held by the chairman and keep gazing at the ceiling all the time. The lingua franca was Punjabi. I used to pick up a few words at these meetings, come home and ask my lord, a Punjabi speaking owner of a flour mill, the meaning of those words. In all earnestness, I went about my job in organizing the department and getting business through branches. There were four sister banks in Delhi, almost with the same background but smaller than NBI. There were, besides New Bank, Oriental Bank of Commerce, Punjab and Sindh Bank, and Lakshmi Commercial Bank. Even though they were like-minded, they were independent entities. They ran a common staff training college, and I became a lecturer in that college on all aspects of foreign exchange business. I must say, I enjoyed my job and reputation I developed thanks to my previous experience at Andhra Bank. The first Diwali for our family in New Delhi came up soon after my joining the NBI. Hailing as I did from far south down south, I was not aware of the manner in which Delhi celebrated Diwali, how people there shared their happiness, etc. Clients of the bank sent sweets, fruits, and other gifts on the occasion. Totally unaware of this custom, when such offerings came to my house, we stubbornly refused to accept them and send those gifts back. Some of the senders felt offended and reported this to the chairman, Shri T.R. Tuli. When the Diwali holidays were over and we came back to active banking life, the chairman called me to his room and gave me a lecture. He said that he was aware of the culture in South India and that things were different in the North. He told me that valued clients of the bank should not feel offended and that in future I should not refuse the gifts. We were in a dilemma. My wife suggested that we lock our house and go and spend time with Mr. Gopalaswamy and return at night. In spite of this, when some baskets of fruits and sweets were received or left at our door, we decided to take them to the nearby school for the blind, Andhkanya Vidyalaya, and distribute them there. We did not leave it to school authorities but allocated them ourselves. This certainly gave my wife, children, and myself immense satisfaction. We practiced this as long as we were in Delhi. There was one exception, however. One night when we returned from our hiding, we found a sack full of sugar waiting for us on our doorstep, sent by a sugar mill owner. We promptly called him and requested him to kindly take it back, which he magnanimously did. Maybe that is why I have no sugar problem. That same year of 1971, all of us in the family went to see, for the first time in Delhi, a cinema house called Chanakya Theatre. It was Ganga, Tera Pani Amrit. We went there by the cash van of the bank. Notwithstanding our lack of good understanding of Hindi, we were watching the movie. Halfway through the intermission came, but even after normal time for an intermission, the film was not resumed. Lights in the camera hall were dimmed and people started talking among themselves in a hushed tone. We became restless. On discreet inquiry, I was told that Pakistan had attacked India in the northwest and a full scale war was a probability. I got really scared. I did not know the topography of the locality where we were watching the movie and wanted to return home safely. We left the cinema hall and the driver of the van brought us home. There was no television. We had bought a Murphy radio where we were in Madras for rupees 540. We switched it on to hear the news. Almost for 2 hours, only one announcement came on the air. It said, "Please stand by. The Prime Minister, Srimati Indira Gandhi, would address the nation." This announcement was repeated until the PM came on the air around 11 p.m. She spoke about the Pakistan aggression and India's preparedness and asked people to remain calm. Sometime later, I learned that the delay in PM's address to the nation was due to her insisting on her army, led by Field Marshal Manekshaw, to retaliate, push the Pak army back from our border and confirm it, and then only she would speak to the nation. Some years later, I happened to sit on a board where Sam Manekshaw was also a director. I had the good fortune to see him closely and get the above narration corroborated by him. The war lasted from December 3rd, 1971 to December 16, 1971 and ended in a great victory for India. But let me not attempt to write the history of India for fear of inaccuracies. Instead, I'll return to my theme in the next chapter. Apart from organizing the foreign department of the bank and giving lectures at the North Indian Bank's Staff Training College, which was located in a hired building in South Extension, I was also engaged in writing the manual of instructions for foreign exchange business. I had to explain to the branches the profitability of this type of businesses and also the precautions they had to take. All types of FE business at all branches except the branch in Bombay and Kolkata, formerly known as Calcutta, were handled by the branch attached to the head office, which was at 9 Acre North Place, New Delhi. Branches were encouraged to bring FE business by passing on to them all the earnings from there. I traveled frequently to places with business potential, and all the branches in Ludhiana and Jalandhar in Punjab were prominent among them. When you're thrown in water, you struggle but quickly learn how to swim. That was my experience of learning the Punjabi language. Once I started replying in one or two words of Punjabi, the persons to whom I spoke was very happy and enthusiastically encouraged me to speak more. Gradually, I could speak some sentences and understand almost all that was spoken at our meetings. I grew comfortable in that situation. Travel to northern parts of Punjab and especially the interior was an experience. It stood me in great good stead. When I visited Amritsar, I was given temple honors at the Harmandir Sahib, the world famous golden temple. The honor included a sarupa and a sword besides a huge photo of the temple. Words cannot describe the serenity of the place when you are there before 5 a.m. Melodious singing of the Granth Sahib, the holy book, and the cool breeze wafting the shores of the huge sacred tank, the Karseva and the Langar. I took the prasad at the langar and felt greatly elated. Thereafter, I visited the temple some more times, and the experience is the same every time. I thank my stars for assigning me to a bank job that took me to such a holy place. A couple of months later, I bought an ambassador car made by Hindustan Motors. In those days, there were only two types of car on the Indian market, Ambassador and Fiat. That must be towards the end of your 1971. I vaguely remember that the car cost me 21,000 rupees, which was inclusive of taxes and insurance. The car had a very lucky number, 8765. I learned driving from a man named Mohan Singh. He was from Garhwal, UP, and claimed that he was a Rajput. He was always punctual and kept the car neat and clean and in good condition. What I liked in him was that he was possessive of the car as though he was the owner. I remember his instructions: "Pehle brake, baad mein clutch." And on occasions when I made a mistake, he would not hesitate to say, "You would never learn to drive." Later, I was able to make him a permanent employee of the bank. He was my real driving guru, and I can proudly say that I'm a good and safe driver because of him. Incidentally, when I got the car wax polished once in a while, it cost me rupees 20. This now cost me nearly rupees 3,000 in Mumbai. Towards the end of 1972 or the beginning of the year 1973, the management of the NBI decided to change the designations of their top executives. I had mentioned earlier that after the chairman, there was a general manager, Sri M. L. Doot, who was the nominee of the Bangus, who were the majority shareholders of the bank. The next level of executives were three who belonged to NBI from the beginning of their careers: Messrs. Desraj Gandotra, Harish Chandra, and Ramesh Kohli. Mr. Gandotra was reported to have been a traffic policeman in Lahore. Mr. Harish Chandra was probably with the bank from the beginning. Mr. Ramesh Kohli was the youngest son of the founder, Mr. M. R. Kohli, and Ramesh was living an aristocratic lifestyle. These three were given control over the number of branches the bank had. When the question of de-designation of the executives was taken up, the management decided to make Mr. Gandotra, the most senior among them, as deputy general manager and the others as assistant general managers. There was another whom I learned was working in the external affairs ministry, doing God knows what, but joined the bank after the bank moved to India after the partition of the country. He was Mr. B.L. Khurana. He was also redesignated as assistant general manager. I was in the wilderness as far as my position was concerned. After a lot of mental agony and introspection, I thought that the best way was to meet the chairman and talk to him to get clarity on this. I met him, reminded him that I continued to be the controller of FE, and that at the time of my recruitment, he told me that I was almost on par with the general manager and I was given salary higher than above mentioned persons. Mr. Tooley was a seasoned banker who never lost his cool. He told me that I would continue to be the controller of FE and would now be ranked after the other three but above Mr. Khurana. He was really confusing and did not indicate how things would shape up in the future. I was really demoralized and I had no one to turn to seek advice. Mr. Doot continued to be the GM, but he was non-interfering and no one really bothered much about him, but gave him the respect due to him as the nominee of the Bangus, who were the owners of the bank. I decided once again meet the chairman and plead my case. He gave me a patient hearing but did not budge from his decision to make me the sixth in the hierarchy. Ultimately, he conceded to redesignate me as EGM in FE. That was real and disappointment, and I felt that I was misled. But being helpless and having nowhere to go, I accepted the situation and continued with my honest and sincere service in the bank. In my case, destiny definitely played a great role in my life. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. God knows what one deserves, and He gives it at the time when it has to be given. There is no mistake in what He does. We should totally accept this and leave it to Him for His will to prevail. This has been proved to me time after time. I remember reading an article in the Reader's Digest several decades ago. There was a series of articles on the best advice I ever had, and one was, "You cannot hurry the sunrise." I believe in the dictum. Although Ramesh Kohli, son of the founder, was an important executive, he felt that Mr. T.R. Tully, the chairman, who was once the personal assistant to Ramesh's father, the bank's founder, was not giving him enough importance. Ramesh began to keep himself aloof and gave the impression that he was far superior to his other colleagues. He was certainly westernized, wore his aristocracy on his sleeves, and cared little for the job. He would attend the bank at will and was rather irregular to fulfill the duties assigned to him. Sometimes he would go to for lunch and not come back afterwards. The chairman tolerated him possibly as the only courtesy he would show him as a son of his former boss. Ramesh's frequent absenteeism made his work suffer, and consequently his clients were very much inconvenienced. At any given time, the files on his table overflowed and had to find a place on the carpet. His seniors deliberately avoided disposing of his files and wanted the chairman to get fed up with him. There was no bar from one executive taking over the work of other in his absence, as the powers of all assistant general managers were identical, or senior managers of the advances department. I think his name was Mr. Kumar, who had never been with the bank for some time, was unhappy at this situation. One day he came to my office and shared his feelings. I felt that I should rise to the occasion. I started disposing of Ramesh's file, which also involved handling Advance's portfolio. To do this, I drew guidance and support from Mr. Kumar, who was respected by everyone, including the chairman. I was always conscious that I had never worked in the Advances department of any bank. Sensing that I was spoiling their plan to make the chairman feel unhappy with Ramesh Kohli, the deputy general manager Gandotra went to the chairman and complained to him that I was going to drown the bank. He was said to have told the chairman, डूब गया, ये मद्रासी बैंक को डुबा देगा." The chairman asked him what the matter was and why he was so agitated. Desraj Gandotra replied that Madrasi, me, had sanctioned a loan of 15,000 to a company owned by DGM of Oriental Bank of Commerce, and that it was a wrong decision. The chairman calmed him, saying, "Desraj, you neither do anything yourself nor appreciate somebody for doing something. Just keep quiet." This particular borrower, to whom I had sanctioned a loan of rupees 15,000, was running a very successful ready-made garment business that was export-oriented, and he had his office in the same building where Para Cinema was also situated. Subsequently, this exporter client became so rich that he had purchased apartments in New York and some other places in the USA. He became a big depositor of the NBI, having several crores of rupees as deposit. He was not bothered for his job in his bank. Later on, whenever I asked for a deposit, he would immediately give me at least 1 crore. In due course, Ramesh Kohli severed his connections with the bank. It was unfortunate that he was not given a formal farewell or a send-off. One can imagine how much his father must have felt hurt by this. Consequently, I was assigned some advanced portfolio in addition to my FE portfolio. Luckily, there was no one to take over my portfolio. If there was, I could have been an easy target. During that time, the bank was growing in size and needed additional premises. The bank bought 6 floors in building known as Atmaram House at $1 mark, which was close to its head office in Connaught Place. Shortly after we moved into our new office, the chairman, Mr. T.R. Tully, went on a holiday for 2 months to be with his son in the USA. Mr. Gandotra, who had by then become a general manager following the retirement of Mr. Dutt, was asked to hold charge of the bank in the absence of the chairman. Mr. Harish Chandra was promoted as deputy general manager. On the day after the chairman left on his foreign tour, while he was transiting through London, he was recalled and was asked to take over immediately as the CMD of the Punjab National Bank. Perhaps this was the first case of a chairman of a small private sector bank being appointed as the CMD of a large nationalized bank. I learned that this decision was taken by Sanjay Gandhi, who was influenced by one of his close associates in Ludhiana and who was close to Mr. Dulli. The result was that He came back from London and took charge as CMD PNB. Almost at the same time, Mr. Raghu Raj, who was a deputy general manager in a comparatively smaller bank, was appointed as chairman of IDBI, a premier term lending financial institution. Mr. Kamal Raj Puri, who was chairman of LIC, was made the governor of Reserve Bank of India overnight. Although his appointment raised many eyebrows in knowledgeable circles on his suitability for this high office. Mr. Gandotra became chairman of NBI, and in 1975 Mr. Harish Chandra was made the general manager. They were not in a hurry to fill the post of DGM that he had vacated. I was in line for promotion, and that could have been one reason for their not being in a hurry. I was not chasing it either. The resultant vacancy of the post of Deputy General Manager was not filled up automatically. I was not aware as to how these things were done, and I did not even realize that I was an eligible candidate for this promotion. One day after a meeting of the board of directors, Mr. B.R. Maheshwari, a chartered accountant and director on the board, walked into my office and whispered that I was promoted as DGM. I was totally surprised and completely thrilled by this unexpected development. Politically, things were changing fast at that time, and began being in the capital, I could see how people were running after that powerful politicians to gain favors. Sanjay Gandhi became the most powerful politician, although he had no official position. He was essentially a plenipotentiary, and he could make and unmake things. Every minister owed allegiance to him, bearing a few and routed their files to his mother through him. Finance Minister Shri R. Venkataranam was one of the exceptions. I should say that my comments on the political scene should be taken with a pinch of salt, as I was neither a historian nor a political commentator. My views were influenced by what I heard. If they are contrary to facts, they may be ignored. It may be recalled that this misrule came to sudden pace when, on the morning of June 23rd, 1980, Sanjay Gandhi died when the plane he was piloting crashed. It is a separate story that the aircraft itself was imported under controversial circumstances by Dhirendra Brahmachari, a close friend and yoga guru of Sanjay's mother, the Prime Minister of India at that time. Although out of context, let me share an anecdote. I met Dhirendra Brahmachari, whose ashram I use for yoga practice. A friend of mine introduced me to him and said that I deserve to be taken note of the Prime Minister. टीबी said in हिंदी, हाँ बहुत सुना है इनके बारे में, ये तो सीधा साधा है, खुद पीता नहीं, खाता नहीं और किसी को पिलाता नहीं या खिलाता नहीं, इनसे हमको क्या लेना देना है. A rough translation is as follows. Yes, heard much about him. He's a straightforward man. He neither drinks nor eats, nor does he help others drink or eat. Of what use to cultivate of him? Chairman of NBI, Kandotro, was not strong like his predecessor and could not be counted among those who had a clean reputation. His weakness was the strength of the employees' union that became strong and militant. He was practically dancing to the tunes of the unions, both Congress and Communist pact. The general manager who was handling the personal portfolio was trying to manage the situation because of his long association with the bank and the union leaders, and the general secretary K.D. Bandari was closely related to the chairman. He was the brother of Gandotra's first wife. Things went on, and a time came when the general manager Harish Chandra fell ill due to a cardiac problem. After hospitalization, he resumed his work in the office, but the bank wanted to find a suitable person for his replacement. To find one and to groom him to take over from Harish Chandra took a certain amount of effort. Perhaps they felt that I was not suitable for the post. Eventually, the board recruited a post of joint general manager so that anyone recruited to succeed Harish Chandra would join in this capacity and after some time release Harish Chandra. They zeroed in on one Mr. Ishwar Das Chabra, the then manager of RBI at the Delhi office, and his appointment was approved by the board of the bank. Before he resigned from RBI and took up the offered of post of Joint General Manager NPI, he came to see Mr. Gandotra. He was made to wait for more than an hour. If bankers went to see the managers of RBI, they had to wait for an appointment. The position of manager of RBI was far more important than that of the chairman of NBI. Mr. Chabra felt that he was not getting a proper treatment even when he was yet to join the bank and was not prepared for to face similar situation after starting to work there. He therefore went back without meeting the chairman. He later informed the bank that he was not interested in the offer and did not want to join the bank. The position thus created for him remained vacant. After some time, the board felt that the post that had been created must be filled in and therefore promoted me as joint general manager, which was most unexpected when the date of Harish Chandra's superannuation was approaching. Bank's board gave him an extension in service just to avoid promoting me. Some months later, a meeting of the board was held in Kulu, Manali, and as joint general manager, I was also asked to attend. While some discussions were going on in the meeting, both GM and I were asked to wait outside. After the meeting was over, lunch was served. Afterwards, one of the directors, Mr. Vireshwar Rao from Hyderabad, who was a nominee of Pungus on the board, was taking a stroll and asked me to join him. I was thinking that he did so because I was the only one who could speak Telugu, which is his mother tongue. After walking some distance and when we were beyond the hearing of others, he whispered to me that at the just concluded meeting of the board, it was decided to promote me as general manager and ask Harish Chandra to retire. Mr. Vireshwar Rao asked me to keep quiet about this till I was officially told. This happened at the Manali airport when the visit to Kulu Manali was over and we were returned to New Delhi. I was overwhelmed but could not show my emotion. It was 1978-79 when I became general manager. There were no ED or CGMs in those days, and only SBI had more than one general manager. I was the second in command of the bank, next only to the chairman. As the general manager, the personal portfolio was with me. I noticed a perceptible change in the attitude of the unions. I had never handled personal matters prior to this, and I needed to learn the ropes. The staff department was headed by a manager called Mr. P.S. Bandari, who had good relations with the unions. I trusted him and told him that he should not betray me and should guide me on the right lines. As ill luck would have it, he died suddenly due to a cerebral thrombosis. He was replaced by one Pradeep Kapasi, another trustworthy person who was also a chartered accountant. Unions realized that I would not buckle under pressure and that I was ready to support any good cause. They also knew that I started my career as a trade union man. This helped a lot in mutual trust and understanding, but I was aware that some negative forces were working invisibly to unsettle me so that I would earn a bad name. I had mentioned earlier that the employees were divided between two unions. They were both rivals and hated each other, but they vied with each other in giving a headache to the management. Trade union activity at the banks in Delhi were different from other parts of India. It used to be belligerent in the capital, and the use of foul language and insulting behavior was the way to go. Almost at the same time, Andhra Bank was also going through some sharp changes at the top. Shri Gopal Rao was eased out because he fell foul of Mr. K.L.N. Prasad. As an MP of the Congress party, he had his official residence at 11 Janpath. Everybody knows that 10 Janpath, where the president of Congress party lived and lives lies just opposite to 11. He continued to be powerful in the bank and I used to visit him once in a while. I gathered from him that the post of general management manager in Andhra Bank was vacant and that they were considering some names who were my colleagues when I was there. I was toying with the idea of going back, but I utilized the occasion to tell Mr. Prasad how Mr. Gopal Rao was uncharitable in my case and how Mr. Tuli had shown his gesture by giving me 50% of the expenses incurred in my overseas training. Mr. Prasad felt that I had been wronged and asked me to make a written appeal mentioning that NBI had paid half the amount and request Andhra Bank to refund the excess they had recovered from me. When my appeal reached AB, there was no chairman and Mr. Nagarajan was the manager carrying on the bank. He was at the time a favorite of Mr. Prasad who asked him to refund the money. It was refunded to me very soon thereafter. Friends in this group might remember Mr. Nagarajan as he was from Bank of India. Mr. Gopal Rao took him to Andhra Bank to look after the small scale industry advances as AGM. Thus, thanks to Mr. Tuli and Mr. K.L.N. Prasad, the entire amount that I sacrificed when quitting Andhra Bank came back to me, even though nearly 5 years had passed in between. I expressed my gratitude to Mr. Prasad at a later date when I requested him to inaugurate a branch of New Bank of India in Chikadapoli, Hyderabad. Sadly, he too is no more. Regarding the idea of my going back to Andhra Bank, I discussed this with the joint secretary in the banking division, Mr. V.R. Gupta, who looked after the India at the finance ministry. He was a fine person, very matured in his thinking, softly spoken, and always sound in his advice. He advised against my wish and said that I should not go back because I will be comfortable as general manager at NBI, and there was no sense in going back to politicians' bank. He also added prophetically that I could become chairman at NBI, which was a possibility I could not dream of in either bank. I accepted his advice and dropped making any further moves in that direction. It was not long until this prophecy became true. The chapter Back to Banking, New Bank of India, New Delhi continued with subchapter as first leadership opportunity. Thank you very much for your patience. Please do like, share, and subscribe this channel.